Welcome to Cory Turner Talks Cars. What do you do if you have a car accident? Should you claim everything? What kind of coverage should you have? Would you be in trouble if your friend borrowed and wrecked your car? Do home insurance policies change? And can you make savings if you have your car involved too? These are a lot of great questions. So I brought on Mr. Matt Tobin, my State Farm insurance agent, and I asked him some questions. But man,
Yeah,
thanks for coming on today.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so of course, we wanted to bring you on and ask you some questions. Of course, we talked about cars, we talked about houses, but just wanted to go almost basic, right?
Yeah,
So, what should someone do if they're involved in an accident? Like, what's those initial steps? What should we do?
yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Corey, because we get so many calls from the scene asking, what should I do? Somebody just hit me, or I just hit somebody. So what we've got is we actually have, so if anybody wants this, we actually have an accident report guide that we give to all of our customers. And, it might seem a little silly, but we all know that when we're under pressure or something bad just happened, everything that we know or heard goes out the window. So we encourage everybody to put these in their glove compartment or in their center console, because what's really important at the time, because believe it or not, people's stories change. So one of the things that is in this brochure is drawing a diagram of what happened.
Okay.
And I'll give you a great example of why that's important. I actually helped a customer reconstruct an accident because he said, Matt, it did not happen the way the police wrote it down and the way the other person said it happened. So since he had a diagram from the scene, we were actually be able to go back and deny liability to the other person in that case. And that was a situation where the accident had occurred before I was even this guy's agent.
And it's true. It's not always that people are trying to necessarily lie or necessarily take advantage. It's just you start remembering things different. And I hate to say, you kind of tend to always put yourself in a little better light. So when you're writing that out, if you can catch it fresh, I imagine that's great for you guys to be able to go
Absolutely.
off.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is.
So, you hear so many stories about, oh, you should file this claim, you should do that claim. Should we file all claims? What's your suggestions on that?
That's one of the things that I let customers know all the time when I'm sitting with them, working with them before something bad happens. I'll let them know before you call the 800 number. If you're wondering if you should file the claim, that's what we're here for. So please give us a call. Every one of my clients I've offered my cell phone number to every one of my clients.
And I have used it a couple of times.
So I definitely want people to know that before you file a claim, let's talk about it. Because if you've had a couple accidents, especially if you're younger, right? If you're a 2 or 3 year driver and maybe you've already had a ticket or an accident, if you back into a tree, you may want to think about whether you should turn that in or not. And that's what we're here for, to
Right.
help people make those decisions.
Do claims go with me, or does it really go with the vehicle? I mean, how do they determine that?
Yeah, the claim is always going to go with you.
Okay.
So if, for example, let's say this is a great piece to talk about. Do not loan your car out to a friend who's a terrible driver.
Okay.
Now, the claim is going to go with that terrible driver, right? But it is covered under your policy. So if you loan your car out and that person does $5,000 worth of damage, we're going to pay for it because the insurance follows the car, but the accident's going to be on that person's record.
It's going to be on me. So if I let someone, and when I was younger, I hate to say I was really bad about that. I had cars that I was super proud of, and people are like, "Oh, can I drive it around the block?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here, I got it to have fun." But you're saying that we need to be careful about that because we're on the hook if something happens.
Yeah, it's going to be your policy, your deductible. So if you have a $500 collision deductible, you're going to have to come up with that, or your friend's going to have to come up with
Gotcha.
that.
But it's going to be on my record either way.
It'll be on your record. And
Right.
it's a claim on your record, but it's not a surchargeable claim because you weren't driving.
Gotcha. So is there, we get insurance coverage and we have to, is there a gauge, like if we were to hit a car that was $100,000 car or a $200,000 car, if we hadn't kind of prepped for that, we could find ourselves on the hook? How does insurance work with the varying prices in cars?
Yeah, very, very. That's probably the most important coverage on your auto policy, right, Cory?
Right.
Um,
Yes.
protecting your assets, right? If you're at fault for an accident. So under the liability coverage, most cover, and that's what would pay for the damage to that other vehicle. Most companies are going to have a three-number liability coverage. So it's going to be property damage liability, and it's going to be bodily injury liability. So a typical number that we see is 100, 300, 100. The
Okay.
first 100 means if you would injure somebody, they would have medical bills, lost wages, additional expenses. Anything that they're going to come after you for is that first number.
Okay.
You want to make sure you have enough liability coverage to protect your assets. So for the example I always use is if I'm a college student and I'm working part-time and maybe I'm making $15,000 a year and maybe I have $1,000 of assets. I don't need as much coverage as the guy that's, or woman that's making $200,000 a year, has $200,000 in the bank, and if they would be sued, they could lose up to that 200,000.
Gotcha.
So always make sure you have adequate liability coverage, because believe it or not, it's also one of the least expensive coverages per thousand of protection.
Is it really? I would have thought that would have been more.
Yeah, no, it's when you look at, let me give you an example, because all auto policies, as you know, are different based on that person.
Right.
But if I'm a good driver, if I'm 40 years old, 30 years old, I'm a good driver, and I want to get $1 million umbrella policy, $1 million umbrella policy is somewhere between $12 and $15 a month.
Oh, wow.
For an extra $1 million. So it's really, really inexpensive.
Right. So it's better to go than with what the state minimums are. If you can afford more, it's better to have that part covered.
If you need more than state minimum to protect your assets, you definitely want to do that.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
So in as far as like combining the car and the home, there is savings there, right? So
Sure.
what are the differences in home policies? What do those look like?
Yeah, in the state of Texas, it's really interesting. As you know, I've been in Missouri as an agent. I was in California as an agency leader, and now here in Texas. The interesting thing is Texas has probably the most different homeowners policies I've ever seen. Wow. In any of the other states I've been in. And there's really two philosophies out there. The one philosophy is transfer the risk to us, the insurance company. And the other philosophy is transfer some of the risk to us, but then we're going to put limitations on coverage. So a good example of that here in Texas is there's a lot of water claims. A lot of the homeowners policies out there have limitations on water coverage.
Okay.
5,000, 10,000, 15,000 of coverage for different types of water damage. You don't want to find out after that happened that you have a policy with that type of limitation.
That's a bad day when you realize you didn't have enough, right?
That is a bad day. Yeah, that is a bad day. So make sure that you really look at the policy you're getting, and have an insurance agent that you trust, have them review that for you, because there is public information. It's called OPIC. Okay. There's an OPIC site out there for all of us to go to. It's on the web. And I always encourage, well, anytime I do a comparison, I'm going to show a customer the differences between policies. Okay. Because again,
you did that with me. Like you really took time to go through, and you weren't afraid to tell me what I needed either, which I really appreciated that. So yeah, you took that time with me and I appreciated it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I do. And I think one of the reasons I do that, I'm so committed to that, is right out of college, I became a homeowner's adjuster for State Farm. Okay. And I always knew I wanted to be an agent, but I became an adjuster.
Because you've really been around State Farm for, is it almost 30 years?
I know I only look 35, but actually I've been with State Farm 31 years.
Yeah, I didn't want to offend you because I'm like, that can't be right.
So yeah, so anyhow, I started in claims, and the thing I learned is people loved their State Farm agent, no matter who it was, and until they found out that something could have been covered with an endorsement. So
Right.
yeah, it's the commitment of my office and my team that we offer all of the endorsements up front and at our reviews as well, which is very important.
That's good. I never, when we do our reviews, I never felt rushed or, and I've got some weird things here because I'm driving other people's cars and you had to help me get coverage to make sure I was covered there. And, it never, I asked some stupid questions sometimes, but you never made me feel stupid. So I always appreciated that. So,
Absolutely.
um, so where can we learn more about you, about insurance? Where should we visit so we can connect with you?
Yeah, thank you. So I have its Facebook page,
Okay.
Matt Tobin, State Farm. My Facebook page is Matt Tobin dash State Farm.
Okay.
My on the web, I'm Matt Tobin Insurance and Financial Services,
Okay.
and of course Matt at TobbenAgency.com, which is MATT at TOBBEN agency.com.
All right.
And then right here in Flower Mound at 972-724-7033.
Man, well, tell you what, I'll make sure and post that so people can find you. I encourage them to do that. You've been fantastic for us. I wanted to say thank you. And thank you for coming on. We're going to bring you back on because I expect some people are going to have some more questions. Next time, I want to talk about maybe like custom cars and maybe some kit cars and different ways we look at that. So if you're good, we'll bring
Yeah.
you back. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fun. The Antique Classic program.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's awesome. Yep. You got us. Special thank you to Matt for coming on. Be sure to visit his websites. And if you have questions, leave those in the comments because I'm going to bring him back on. We're going to talk to him again. I have questions about kit cars and custom cars and home insurance policies and things like that. So be sure to leave your questions in the comments. Remember to like, comment, and share. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And let's talk about cars tomorrow.